Okay, hello everyone. Good afternoon or good morning, depending on where you are in the world joining us today. My name is Josephine Williams and I'm the Event and Partnerships Manager at IDP. Thank you very much for joining us today for this webinar. On behalf of IDP and IAEC, I'd like to thank you all for contributing your knowledge to the AIEC conference and for participating in this very important program. So thank you very, very much for being here today. This session is for presenters who are in the 15-minute presentation format. So it's not for any other formats like cafes or roundtables. It's purely to go over this new format that we have introduced this year at the conference. So I'm joining you today with Louise Gould, who is our program chair, and also Adi Sabnis, who is our event coordinator. And Adi will be, sorry, actually I should go to the next slide, excuse me. Adi will be monitoring the chat. So if you have comments, you can put them in the chat, and Adi will also be sharing some links if they come up during the presentation. And Louise will be monitoring the Q&A. So if you have a question, we will be taking questions at the end of the presentation. Please put them through the Q&A and use the Q&A button at the bottom of your navigation bar. Louise will then pose the questions at the very end of the webinar. So today we're going to talk about the concept. What is the concept of this 15-minute presentation? What is the structure? We'll talk about the room setup and the equipment that's going to be available. We'll talk a bit about how to submit your presentation slides. We'll give you a sneak peek of the venue and where the location of the room. And also we'll just cover some key dates as well, just as reminders at the end. And then finally, we'll finish with Q&A. Okay, so let's start with the concept. The new rapid fire format at AIEC was introduced based on feedback that we have received over several years. You can see that it's sort of like a mix between the poster, lightning, or inspire presentations that we've done in previous instances of AIEC. These formats were 5 minutes of presentation, and then there was sometimes a Q&A or a discussion. And the main feedback that we got from a lot of speakers and sometimes a lot of delegates was that 5 minutes was just too short to cover all of the content that needed to be covered. And then the other format that it's combining is the thematic presentations. These used to be 25 to 30-minute presentation slots that used to be combined into a single session. And the feedback from that was, especially from delegates, was that it was very, very heavy in terms of content, but there wasn't enough time dedicated to Q&A during that 25-minute slot. And also there was no opportunity afterwards to connect with the speakers and continue the conversation. So what we've done this year is we've taken that feedback on board and sort of have decided to have a middle ground with that 15-minute. We're hoping it's the sweet spot. And so what it will be is it's designed to be fast-paced, content-heavy, and designed to showcase perhaps research findings or a case study, an idea, a program, but there will be no time for Q&A. It is limited to only 1 or 2 speakers, and that 15 minutes is per presentation, not per speaker. So you'll notice in the schedule, you're scheduled as a 15-minute slot. All these presentations are designed to be conversation starters. So they are designed to be followed up by a conversation, a Q&A, or even perhaps a brain date. So that's the main purpose of these 15-minute presentations. In terms of the format, we highly suggest that you stick to the 1 slide per 1 minute format. And here you'll see this is sort of what we recommend. So 1 minute or 1 slide for an introduction. So for you to introduce yourselves, 1 minute for the agenda, or in other words, what you will cover in that presentation. So you're setting the scene and the expectations, the goals of the presentation. 12 minutes for presentation time and 1 minute for outro. And what I mean by outro is final reminders, where can they get more information, where can they contact you if at all, are you doing a brain date, what time will you be in the lounge? This is what we recommend. You might want to do it differently. You might want to spend just 1 minute introducing yourself and covering the agenda. That's absolutely fine. But the important thing is it still has to be within that 15 minute. If you want to have more slides, that's okay as well. Just remember that you'll have 15 minutes only. So there will be a timekeeping. We have to actually keep the time very, very closely because they are back to back, they're scheduled back to back. And the idea is that we run through as many as we can during the day, and that you will have time after the presentation, outside of the presentation room, to have those Q&As and to spend more time discussing with delegates. So there will be a counter, a time counter. The moment you start speaking on stage, it will start counting down from 15 minutes. And then after that, the microphone will turn off and the next presentation will start. So there will be props and there will be counters there, so you'll have a chance to look at it. But I do highly encourage that you think less is more, and also just to practice a little bit before you get on stage. This is an example of what I would recommend you include at the end of your presentation. So how to contact you or how to find out more information. Also, if you have social media tags that you want people to start following you, put that also on the slide. And also, if you are going to be in the speakers lounge, please provide a time at which you will be in that speakers lounge, because you might want to do it right after your presentation, or you might want to wait another half an hour a little bit later in the day and say, okay, I'm going to be at the speakers lounge at these times. So make sure you say that to the audience when you're in the before you end your presentation. And also, if you have a brain date topic, for example, you have a group brain date that has still spots in it, then you can promote that brain date to the audience and say, look, I'm also hosting a brain date on this day at this time. Please connect with me through the platform. And we can talk a little bit more about brain date later on. So this is an example of how I would close your presentation, and that has to be within that 15-minute time slot. A reminder that these sessions will all be live streamed, and the sessions will also be available. So sorry, by live stream, what we mean is virtual delegates will be able to tune in through the virtual attendee hub or the virtual platform and watch your presentation live, which will be broadcast to them. It will also be recorded, and it will then be available on the same platform as a recording for up to 2 months after the event. So that will be available to registered delegates. We will also be uploading your PowerPoint presentation to the virtual platform, unless you prefer that we do not, and you can opt out of that if you like, but the recording itself is for all delegates. Now, the room setup will be a little bit different from what we've done in previous, and that's just so that we can keep the pace of these presentations going. The room will be set up in theatre style, and there will be 2 podiums on the stage, and they will be at opposite side of the stage. So the idea is that one presentation, even if you have 2 speakers, will be on one side of the podium. They will do their presentation for 15 minutes. And as soon as that presentation is over, the next presentation on the other side of the stage will begin. And in between the 2 podiums, there will be a single screen, and we will switch from one presentation slide, one deck, to the next. So there will be all of the normal equipment that you would normally expect in a presentation room. So your lectern, your podiums, your microphones. There will be a fallback monitor so you can preview your presentation, so you don't have to look back or above like I'm doing at the moment. And there will also be a counter at the bottom of the stage, and there will also be a clicker. I don't know if it will be a remote clicker, but we will be able to show you all of that on site when you arrive on the day. So the data project, so there's a data projector and a screen, which I've also mentioned, and that will be in the center of the stage. Now, we've talked a little bit about the presentation structure and the slides. So your deck, if you're using a PowerPoint, you can use Prezi. If you're using Prezi or some other file, please do read the audiovisual link. There's a page on our website under the speaker information about everything you need to know about audiovisual. So please do make sure that you look at that and see the specifications. Most people will normally use PowerPoint. So whatever file you're using, we would love to be able to get that from you in advance. I understand that's hard because a lot of people like me, I wait till the last minute to finish my presentations. But if you could please send it in advance, then you have a link there. It's on the website. I believe Addie might be able to put the link as well in the chat. It's definitely under the speaker information page on the website. So all it is a jot form link, and you can upload your PowerPoint or your file at that point. If you can't submit it by the deadline, which is Friday, the 14th of October, if you cannot submit it at that point, that's okay. What we ask is that when you arrive at the venue, that you go to the speaker's preparation room, which will be on the first floor, and you arrive and you provide the file on a USB so that we can upload it and network it accordingly. There are different times of the day where the speaker's prep room can be really, really busy. So if you're speaking on the Wednesday and you're arriving on Tuesday, it would be great if you could pop in on the Tuesday so that we have it the day before. And if you're on the Thursday, you're scheduled on Thursday, still try to go in on Tuesday, and we might say, okay, we'll come back on Wednesday, or just come in on Wednesday morning. So we just obviously have to manage the traffic, but we just don't want to wait until the very last minute to get your file, because we want to test it, check it, make sure everything's okay. The absolute latest would be 2 hours before your presentation. And that's just to say that all of the presentation need to be networked from the speaker's room. So you can't arrive on the day and plug in a USB on the laptop in the session room. So I think most people who are presenting would be aware of this. This has always been the case at AIEC. It just allows us to have a central location to manage all the technical requirements for each of the audiovisual setups in each room. And a reminder, by the way, that the PowerPoint needs to be set to a ratio of 16:9. I believe this is now the new default, but just a reminder that it needs to be 16:9. A sneak peek at the venue. This is the Gold Coast Convention Center, and we will be using most of the ground floor. So you can see on the bottom left corner of the screen that Central B will be the room we have all of the 15-minute presentations. And to enter this room, you actually have to enter via the exhibition hall. So halls 1 and 2 will be where we have our expo, and from there is the entrance to Central B. And then on first floor, which is in the top right of the screen, you will see the speaker's preparation room or speaker's room, and that's room number 1. I'm sorry, it actually is not pointing to the right place. It should be on this number here, number 1. So that's where the speaker's prep room is. That's where our technical staff will be to help you with any questions you might have. If you do have to make final changes to your presentation, there'll be tables there where you can work and you can plug your laptops, and there'll also be some laptops available there as well. So that's in terms of the venue, and I'm just going to show you now the actual exhibition floor plan. This is not the final exhibition floor plan, but it's close enough. The one thing that won't be changing is the location of the Central B. So Central Room B, which is where the 15 minutes presentations are going to be. And you can see here clearly where you have to enter through the expo, and then you come into here into the left-hand side there. This will all be signed. There'll be signage, and there'll be crew and helpers from the staff to also direct people there. You can also see that just outside the Central B, there's Speakers Lounge. And this is where we expect speakers to host their smaller discussions and answer questions from delegates after their presentation. As I mentioned before, it can be right after your presentation, or you can decide to wait a little bit longer. That will be up to you to decide when you would like to have that. I would say try to host it on the same day and not too far away. So if you're presenting on Wednesday at 10 o'clock, don't host your conversations at Thursday, 3 o'clock. Try to keep it on the same day, but make it clear to the audience what times you will be there. We will have a number of people available to help and activate that space. So especially program committee members and members of the IAA network, as well as members of the steering committee. So there will be a number of people helping you to manage the flow, and you're not expected to tell people and conduct people in and out of the room or anything like that. We will provide that support, but what we need from you is your knowledge and your time really to be in that space and be able to connect with other delegates if they want to know more about your presentation, your programs, and your services and your research. So we want to make sure that that space is as welcoming as possible. Just a final note about Braindate. I'm not going to go into what Braindate is or any of the technical parts of Braindate, but Braindate is a part of the conference experience. It is available to all delegates, whether in person or virtual, and it is an opportunity for speakers to amplify their message and to reach out to more people and to share their knowledge and have those conversations with other people. So I would encourage you, when the virtual platform is launched next week, which is I think on the Tuesday, the 4th of October, which is when we will launch it, and you will have access to the virtual platform and to the Braindate marketplace. That's when we encourage you to post topics and to encourage people to join you and to connect based on ideas and to connect based on topics of conversation that you share interest with. You don't have to host a Braindate. You might want to join somebody else's Braindate, but I do encourage you to at least go and browse and see what's on offer. And perhaps during the conference, something will spark your interest and you will want to post, you'll get inspired and want to post a topic. So there's definitely information available on the website at the moment, and there will be more information when we launch the virtual Braindate next week. So that, I believe, is the end of the presentation part. I'll just stop here. I've already covered this, but the main dates to remember is the virtual platform launches on the 4th of October. The presentation slides are due on the 14th of October, if you can submit them in advance. And then we will be hosting in-person Braindates and virtual Braindates on the Wednesday and the Thursday, same as your presentations. And we will be hosting an additional virtual only Braindate experience on the week after the conference on the 27th of October. So those are the key dates to remember. And I think I'll stop here, Louise, and hand over to you, if that's okay, and tell me if we've got any questions.
Hi, thanks, Jo. That was very, very, very helpful. I'm sure you all found it very useful as well. Always tricky when we have a new format coming in, but I think this one we've landed on something pretty good. Now, look, everybody except one person has completely failed the first test of being involved in the AIEC, and that you all put your questions in the chat box, apart from one person who put it in the Q&A. So the person who put it in the Q&A gets to have their question answered first, which is, are there restrictions on the times that speakers can use the speaker lounge, or can they just use it whenever they want?
Very good question. Anytime you want, as long as it's within the exhibition hours, opening hours. So what I'll do is I'll update that on the website to make that more clear. So if you go to the program page and you look at the program at a glance and you see exhibition open, those are the times where you can do it. It will get very busy during catering time. So during morning tea, lunchtime, and afternoon time, it will get very, very busy. But that space might be used by other delegates, but we will try to prioritize speakers. So make sure that when the crew is there, let them know, I'm a speaker, I'm speaking the 15-minute presentations, I'd like to use this space for a conversation.
Then I will move to the chat because that's where the rest of the questions are.
Yeah.
People are asking about, will the slides be circulated? And I think Addie is responding to you all saying the recording of this presentation will be on the AIEC website, so you will have access to it moving forward. Sally has asked, will there be time for people to move between rooms? What if someone wants to come to one 15-minute presentation but not another? There is no break, is there? It's just like
and that will be one of the new things that we will. So the idea will be that the doors, I don't know if they'll be completely closed, but there will definitely be a lot of movement in and out because they're back to back and they're not organized by key interest area. We used to have them organized by themes, but what we wanted to do is have a mix of different key interest areas within a block of time, so that someone can come in for 15 minutes, watch the presentation, and then move out. Or someone might come in and want to watch 2 back-to-back presentations and then take off. So then they're not having to stay in a session room for the entire 60 minutes. What that means, for example, if you are in marketing or in students or in employability stream, you'll see that sometimes there's 2 or 3 sort of scheduled back to back. So it'll be up to you to decide as a speaker, do you want to perhaps do your presentation and wait for half an hour before you go to the speaker's lounge so that people can watch the rest of the presentations? Or do you want to do your presentation and go away and do it right away? So, but the idea is that we do expect people to come in and out. And when we set up the theater style, we'll make sure that there's enough aisles for people to come in and out. And we might also have at the back of the room, we haven't decided this yet, if we can have some more informal seating, like high cocktail tables, so that people, it could be standing room only at the back. We haven't quite figure that out yet because we want to wait until we're on site and we can see the space and how much capacity we have in that room.
So yeah, just be prepared for movement in that room, people, and don't be offended when people get up and leave. It's going to be quite fluid, I think. Someone, or I think it's Sally again, asked, do we just quietly step off the stage, or will someone thank us and signal us to move?
Yes, good question, Sally.
You will be signaled if you get to your 15 minutes, like, thank you, bye. But Jo?
Yeah, we'll have MCs throughout the day. I don't know who will be emceeing your section. It'll be divided into blocks of time. So yes, there will be someone welcoming you to the stage and also thanking you at the end of your presentation. We do want, and we will cover this when you arrive at the venue. Just make sure that if you're presenting before the, sorry, let me rephrase this. If you're after somebody else's presentation, you might have to quietly come onto stage and position yourself at the podium so that you're ready to go. And then when the presentation before you stops, the MC will say, thank you very much, Louise. You know, and now we will start. Welcome Sally Parrott to the stage. Sally, over to you. So there will be
it'll be quick. It'll be pretty quick.
Yeah. It'll be quick, but there will definitely be an introduction and a thank you at the end.
Yeah, but there won't be sort of bios read or position titles or any of that, because the idea is it's pretty rapid fire.
Yeah, and also, Louise, sorry, just on the bios, because that's a good point. Everyone will have access to your bio on the app. So I don't recommend that you spend too much time anyway when you do your own introduction, that you spend too much time, because people will have access to that. Use that introduction time maybe to just frame why you're there, or what this topic means to you, or why you're presenting on it, rather than saying who you are or just repeating what is already in your bio.
Yeah. Yeah, and look, we're almost there, because Addie has been busily answering questions in the chat as you've been speaking. There was a question about, is there just one lectern? There's 2 lecterns, both will have a mic. So as one person's finishing up, be ready to just step up to that second lectern. But and then Alison suggested that we leave a bit more room between rows, so it's easy for people to leave the room, but Addie's right across that and said, yep, already planned to do that. So that's it, Josephine. I can't see any other questions either in the chat or in the Q&A.
Okay. All right. Well,
I think you must have done a very good job.
Let's see. I think
I'll sign off
we're
everything.
very excited. Look, I just wanted to say we're really excited about this, and the program committee, I think as a whole, we sort of came together and looked at the feedback and really tried to say, to figure out what's the best way to do this. We know that every time we introduce a new format, there's always going to be something that we didn't plan for, or we didn't know, or we could have done better. So I'd say we appreciate the challenges of trying to, you know, get your head around this new format. But what we would appreciate even more is during your, or right after your presentation, or in an email afterwards, or if you see a member of the program committee, they will all be in the room, give us your feedback on the format. What was it for you? What did you like about it? What didn't work? What could we do better? Because that will just mean that next year we can improve on it and keep working at it. So I appreciate the challenge of this new format, this new year, this new format this year. But yeah, your feedback is going to be really, really important for us to keep improving.
Thanks, Josephine, and thank you all for attending. And we're looking forward to seeing you on the Gold Coast in person finally, and to hearing your presentations. So thank you all, and thanks, Josephine.
Thank you, everyone, and see you very, very soon.
Bye.